Imagine a country big enough to encompass 30 European countries within its borders. Fill it with natural and geologic wonders. Color it with the exquisite hues of exotic birds and flowers set against a background of lush green vegetation. Burnish this paradise with the orange and yellows of the southern sun. Etch it with thousands of miles of tumbling rivers. Embellish it with mountains, forests, beaches, and islands. Blend in the hues of a multitude of races and cultures, and glaze them with the warmth and hospitality of a single united people. Link the 5 regions of this country, each a gem of inimitable brilliance, and give this glittering tropical tiara a name.
Cortina do passado, tira a empreita do cerrado, toca o recôndor com gado, canta de novo, toda mera embora, luz da lua, toda a canção do seu amor. Quero ver essa dona caminhando, pelos salões arrastando o seu vestido rendado.
International Video Network welcomes you on this video visit to Brazil. When most people think of Brazil, they think of the wildness of the Amazon, the stunning beauty of Rio de Janeiro, or the excitement of Carnival. And while these things are indeed a part of Brazil, a closer look at this fascinating country reveals a multitude of unexpected facets. This is, after all, a country so large that while it's winter at one end, it's summer at the other. Brazil accounts for half of South America in both land size and population. And with 70% of its people under 30, it is a country young in age and spirit. Despite the current economic problems, Brazil is one of the richest countries in the world in terms of natural resources. It has the most concentrated economic and industrial base in Latin America, and it ranks 8th in the world in gross national product. Brazil is a neighbor to every other country on the continent except Ecuador and Chile, and its 3 million square miles are made up of 5 distinct geographical regions. The northern region holds the vast primordial forests of the Amazon basin, a world unto itself, a giant watershed which feeds the Amazon, the largest river in the world. The northeastern region is the Golden Coast, a land of endless tropical beaches, the cradle of Brazilian civilization, a place where African, Portuguese, and Dutch cultures have merged to form a way of life that is both unique and typically Brazilian. The West Central region is an almost untouched land of vast marshes, teeming with native wildlife, the Pantanal of the Mato Grosso. And from out of this stark wilderness rises the shape of the future, the ultra-modern capital of Brazil, Brasilia. The samba beat of Rio de Janeiro and the dynamo pulse of Sao Paulo makes the southeastern region the real energy center of the country. The southern region is a high, cool land of pine forests and pampas, perfectly suited to ranching and agriculture. Here the folkways of Europe have been faithfully preserved. And it is in this southern region on the borders of Paraguay and Argentina that the Paraná and the Iguaçu rivers meet with such force that they create the largest waterfall on earth, the luminous Iguaçu Falls. It is one of many incomparable sights in a land of geologic wonder and vast natural resources. But Brazil's greatest natural resource is her people. Brazil is a unique mix of races, which began with the Aboriginal Indians, followed by the Portuguese settlers who later brought slaves to the New World from Africa. Successive waves of immigrants from Europe, Asia, and the rest of the world continue this process even today, making Brazil one of the world's most dynamic cultural melting pots. Brazilians are united by a love of music, the Portuguese language, and an intense spirituality that finds expression in both traditional Roman Catholicism and in specifically Brazilian practices, such as macumba and candomblé. Brazilians are an optimistic and vital people, looking toward the future as Brazil prepares itself to fulfill its great potential. The history of Brazil is long and complex. What Columbus missed when he discovered America was found by the Portuguese navigator Pedro Alvarez Cabral in 1500. This was just 7 years after Pope Alexander VI divided the New World between Spain and Portugal by drawing an arbitrary line 370 leagues west of the Azores. The idea was to give the riches of the New World to Spain and the prizes of Africa and the Far East to Portugal. Brazil, which bulges far eastward into the Atlantic, was then unknown. This error was a geography lesson that gave Portugal a foothold in the New World. The history of Brazil continued with a series of booms and busts through which the country was gradually explored and settled. The first explorers found only the dye-yielding wood, pau-brasil, from which Brazil takes its name. The first major settlements in Brazil came as the result of the sugar boom of the 17th century, when Brazil became the world's leading producer of sugarcane. This ended when sugar produced in the Caribbean proved cheaper for Europeans to import. Today, cane is once more an important crop, not just as the raw ingredient for a popular drink, but as a source of alcohol fuel, part of Brazil's recent move toward economic self-sufficiency. It was the early cane boom that made the northeastern city of Salvador, known locally as Bahia, the first capital of Brazil. This tropical port city, which sits beside a large bay surrounded by cocoa palms and fragrant flowers, may no longer be the political capital of Brazil, but the colonial beauty of its architecture remains. It is here that the descendants of the slaves who provided the physical energy for the sugar boom today provide much of the spiritual and emotional energy that makes Brazil so very alive. Bahia is a city on 2 levels. The lower level contains the old port, the commercial center, and the docks for the ferries that take locals and adventurous travelers to the nearby island of Itaparica. The upper city can be reached by steps, or, as in Lisbon, by a public elevator. The old market on the waterfront is the main trading center for the tons of fresh fruit, fish, and sugarcane that come into Bahia every day. There is a special flavor to life in Bahia, and there is a special flavor to its cuisine, a spicy blend of African sauces and local seafood cooked in palm oil. Bahian food has become so popular that it can now be found served on street corners throughout Brazil. Another uniquely Bahian tradition is capoeira, or foot fighting. Developed in Brazil by the slaves, it has evolved into a highly ritualized martial art. Capoeira shows today are staged with explosive energy. The beauty of the city of Salvador is rivaled by the beauty of its endless miles of golden beaches, treasured by natives and visitors alike. Brazil is the largest Catholic nation in the world, and it is said that there is a church for each day of the year in Bahia. The famous convent of São Francisco de Assis, with its sumptuous carved gold leaf and its classic murals, is but one of the hundreds of Catholic churches that grace the city. Despite the city's pride in its many Catholic places of worship, the Bahiano is also the Brazilian most deeply involved in African belief systems, the intriguing worlds of Macumba, Candomblé, and Umbanda. It was through the portals of Bahia, the center of the Brazilian slave trade, that 3 to 5 million Africans were first brought to the New World. Missionaries baptized them when they landed, but didn't care if they kept their drums, their songs, and some of their own customs. Although the Catholic Church later attempted to suppress African religion, the slaves were able to incorporate Catholicism with their own gods and rituals, producing what today is called candomblé. As practiced now, candomblé remains close in form to the original African religions brought by the slaves. Umbanda, the most popular form of Macumba, is a colorful blend of candomblé, Catholicism, American Indian religions, and European spiritualism. A central feature of Umbanda is an altered state of consciousness, described by devotees as possession by supernatural beings. Spirit possession is a state in which the medium's own consciousness leaves, and his body is entered by the possessing entity. Drumming, singing, and dancing accompany the celebration as the spirits arrive, ordering food, drinks, cigars, special costumes, or whatever it is they like. Umbanda members report feeling spiritually or psychologically cleansed after recovering from possession. Anthropologists, psychologists, and medical doctors have been intrigued by the success of Umbanda in treating certain psychological and even medical problems. Through Umbanda, the dispossessed seem to regain a sense of power and respect by associating themselves with powerful supernatural forces. Umbanda also helps to integrate the adherent's personality by allowing the expression of repressed aspects of his or her personality in the context of possession. However it is understood or explained, Umbanda functions as a psychotherapy for the poor. People come seeking solutions to their problems, and Umbanda offers them the help they need. In recent years, Umbanda has become a powerful force in Brazil's popular culture, providing a means of expression and creativity, and its influence can be felt throughout Brazil. Although Salvador remains a rich cultural center with its macumba, its capoeira, and its exuberant carnival, Brazil's history moved on in the late 1700s as the demand for sugar began to decline, and groups of explorers known as bandeirantes, or banner bearers, left the coast to explore the interior. These explorations paid off handsomely when gold was discovered in the present-day state of Minas Gerais. And so began Brazil's next big boom. The tons of gold which came from Brazil during the gold boom produced enough wealth to finance the Industrial Revolution in Europe. The original capital of Minas Gerais was the Baroque city of Ouro Preto, built in the 1800s. Ouro Preto's unique beauty inspired UNESCO to declare it a World Historical Monument. As a consequence, the city still retains the grace and elegance of its old world heritage. The wealth of gold brought cultural gifts as well. Minas Gerais produced one of the Baroque period's most astonishing artists. These statues were carved by the sculptor Aleijadinho, known as the Little Cripple. Despite being handicapped by leprosy, which deformed his hands, Aleijadinho created these works of art by strapping carving tools onto his arms. The 12 apostles, which stand in front of the church of Bom Jesus, are thought to covertly represent the leaders of the Brazilian independence movement. The figures in his Stations of the Cross are also thought to be veiled caricatures of political figures of the era. Although the gold boom eventually faded, and with it Ouro Preto's short-lived distinction of being the richest city in the world, the economic importance of the state of Minas Gerais remains. The region is a geologist's utopia, with mineral wealth of less obvious but no less important value. The state of Minas Gerais is so littered with crystal, sparkling ores, and semi-precious stones that the land is almost always smoldering as a result of sun-started fires. Here, the Earth's crust has blossomed, yielding beautiful clusters of every imaginable type of natural crystal. Although some of these unusual crystals are mere attractive curiosities, others, such as various members of the beryl family, are among the most valuable substances known to man. When the early Bandeirantes began searching these hills for diamonds and emeralds, they had no idea that Brazil would one day become the world's leading producer of gems and colored gemstones. Perhaps no one knows more about the fascinating world of Brazilian gemstones than the man who first introduced Brazil to the art of gem cutting, Jules Sauer.
The search for gemstones is almost as long as Brazil exists, which means 500 years. But less than 50 years ago, it was only known to a handful of experts. Today, millions and millions of people know that Brazil is in reality the paradise of gemstones. The 90 different gemstones found in Brazil consist of a variety which is unknown anywhere else. The most important, the diamond, has been found since colonial times, and all in 4 different states. All riverbeds are diamond bearing. But as Brazil has been overshadowed by South Africa at the end of the last century, we were looking more for colored gemstones, and the aquamarine was the first important stone we found. In 1963, we found emeralds for the very first time, and the last discovery, which was made in 1987, is alexandrite. Alexandrite is an extremely rare stone, and it's very, very high. It's more costly than the finest diamond. A good alexandrite can cost up to $15,000 a carat. The imperial topaz, or precious topaz, has been for many, many years one of the most covered gemstones in Brazil, and also the highest priced gemstones. The old capital of the state of Minas Gerais, Ouro Preto, is also the capital of the imperial topaz.
The Capuan mine, operated by Amsterdam Sauer and Rodrigo Silva near Ouro Preto, is one of the few producing imperial topaz mines in the world. Here, the topaz-yielding material is hydraulically dismounted using water from a nearby holding pond. The material is then mechanically transported to the beginning of a series of flumes and screens where it is carefully classified and separated. Here, the material is further classified by a vibrating separator. In the final stages of the process, the promising stones are hand-picked from the quartz crystal and other materials that have been concentrated from the original slurry. Even in this highly efficient mine, it takes tons of raw material to produce each carat of precious imperial topaz. The finest stones from the mines in Minas Gerais and elsewhere in Brazil eventually find their way to the jeweler's shop, where they are artfully transformed into the centerpieces for some of the world's most beautiful jewelry. The allure of these beautiful colored gemstones is so great that almost no one leaves Brazil without at least one. The values to be found in Brazilian gemstones are legend, but you must be careful where you buy. Everyone has a bargain waiting for the unwary tourist. Some of the cheaper ones, like the ones offered by these boys on the streets, may even be colored glass imitations. Anyone serious about purchasing fine jewelry would do well to learn a little about the 4 C's and to make their purchase from one of the established, reputable firms that have outlets in all the major cities. And there's no better place to buy them than in the fine shops of Rio de Janeiro. Set between the mountains and the sea, Rio is without question the star in the crown of Brazil. The famous statue of Christ the Redeemer on the top of Corcovado Mountain stands with open arms, looking down on a city of open-hearted people who know more than a little about the joy of life. The beach is our living room, say the Cariocas, the name the natives of Rio give themselves. It is not just an exquisite ribbon of sand decorating several perfect bays. It is an extension of their homes, their lives, and they play hard. Soccer is the passion of Brazil. The sandy athletes in this game will take this same intensity with them when they go to Rio's Maracanã Stadium, the world's largest, with room for over 200,000 fans. It's about as impossible to resist becoming involved in a game under these conditions as it is to resist a tidal wave. Emotion surges, and each play of the ball is an event of insuperable importance. But there are other facets of Rio. There is a tranquility possible here as well. In the Tijuca forest, on a cable car suspended between the peaks of Sugarloaf Mountain, or in the botanical gardens, where palm-lined paths wander among over 8,000 species of cataloged plants. These fragile blooms are found in the orchid house. And this temptation for some unwary insect is in the carnivorous plant house. There are also examples of economic plants, such as vanilla, cinnamon, coffee, and exotics like coca, perhaps the world's most controversial plant, and thousands of flowers of every shape and color. History lives in Rio. The municipal theater is modeled on the Paris Opera House, an exact replica, though on a somewhat smaller scale. This is a place where the old and new meet, though some look dwarfed by comparison. Rio was founded on New Year's Day in 1502, when Portuguese sailors arrived and mistook the bay for a river which they called Rio de Janeiro, or the River of January. Rio was a capital of the southern part of Brazil, as well as the refuge for Portugal's royal family when they fled from Napoleon in 1807. It is a city of transitions. This aqueduct, the Arcos da Lapa, built in 1750 to bring water from the hills, now serves as a track bed for the streetcars going up the hills to the Santa Teresa district, up to the hills, to the favelas, which are the site of the famous samba schools, the neighborhood associations that give Rio the music and the costume dancers who parade through the samba drone during Carnival. From the poverty of the favelas that cling to the hillsides comes the energy and color for the event that makes Rio famous the world over. For the 5 days before Ash Wednesday each year, the city of Rio throws away its clocks and its calendars and puts on its most splendid dress for an annual plunge into hedonism, dance, and spectacle. Everything in Rio takes on a carnival air. Here at the crafts fair, people come from all across the city, and everyone has something to buy or to sell. At the San Cristobal Flea Market, immigrants from the Northeast arrive each Sunday to renew old friendships and have a good time. Every sense is tempted here, tantalized by the sights, the sounds, and everywhere the aromas of food cooked over sizzling hot coals. This is the barbecued beef for which Brazil is justly famous. Feijoada is a typical Brazilian meal of black beans simmered with a variety of meats and served with rice, collard greens, and mandioca. Brazilians eat a lot of beef, and with good reason. The pampas in the south of Brazil are ideal for raising top-quality cattle. Here in the southern region, beef is served in the traditional Brazilian barbecue, or churrascaria, beef served on a sword. Here in the Southland, alongside the cattle, lives the Brazilian gaucho, the poncho-wearing, mate-drinking, silver-spurred Brazilian cowboy, a survivor and hero of his own legend. To live free as the bird that cleaves the sky was the goal of Martin Fierro, the literary hero of the epic poem of the Pampas, and it is the goal still of his real-life descendants, the present-day gaucho. Like our cowboy, the gaucho is an individualist who survives by skill and courage, riding across plains so expansive he must depend, like a sailor, on the Southern Cross in the night sky for direction. The gaucho life is not reserved only for men. Women, called gauchas, are part of the gaucho culture. In fact, here, everyone is a gaucho. This is not only the land of the gaucho, but the home of a people who have held on to their European roots, recreating the old world in the new. The Southland was congenial to these settlers from Europe. It is the only region of Brazil with 4 distinct seasons, looking every bit like the European countryside, except for the palm trees. The town of Gramado looks very German, which isn't surprising because German immigrants settled here in 1824 and developed a prosperous agricultural economy. In fact, this part of Brazil retains a European way of life that seems to have almost disappeared in Europe. But the southern region isn't only a land of agriculture. It is a region of natural wonders as well. These wind-sculpted spires of red sandstone resemble the ruins of some ancient civilization, its greatness reduced by time, and the name given to these natural monuments, Vila Velha, means just that, ancient city. Itenbagino Canyon is a dramatic 5-mile wide fault, cleaved by geological movement. Feathery waterfalls descend to a private Eden between these fern-covered walls. Geology has given the southern region another curiosity. The furnas, cavities in the earth created when the ceilings of subterranean rivers collapsed. To ride down this elevator is to fall into a fairy tale world of deep green pools at the bottom of a giant well. Nothing, however, can prepare anyone for what is to come. Iguazu Falls overwhelms all expectations. To be present at these falls is to have the sensation of being present on one of the days of creation. There are more than 275 separate falls, each higher than Niagara here. And visitors can choose from a variety of vantage points, or fly above in a helicopter. The Argentine side offers a tantalizingly precarious view from the very edge of this immense crevasse. On the Brazil side, there are a series of platforms, each with a different view, and all easily accessible by foot from the historic Tropical Hotel. It's good to experience the wilderness, but to be able to bring civilization along is almost too good to be true. Far to the north, in the lush forests of Brazil's northmost region, the same comforts await the traveler at the famous Hotel Tropical in Manaus, a place where the mysterious world of the Amazon waits just beyond the gate. The Amazon forest, which blankets 40% of Brazil's territory, is more than just an exotic travel destination. It plays a vital role in the health of our planet. Its greenery generates 50% of the world's supply of oxygen, and the living jungle helps maintain the critical balance of gases in the Earth's atmosphere. This tropical rainforest is the home to more than 1,800 species of birds and several hundred species of mammals, and more than 1,500 species of aquatic creatures inhabit its countless miles of waterways. To men trying to conquer the jungle, the rainforest appears almost indestructible. But this overwhelming forest is actually a most delicate and fragile ecosystem. The life of the forest is protected by the heavy leafy canopy and the dense mat of roots below. These roots are all that holds the thin layer of soil that nourishes and holds the jungle. When large sections of forest are destroyed for short-term agriculture or grazing, the thin layer of topsoil washes away in the frequent rains, leaving only barren rock. And though the jungle is so large that it seems like a limitless resource, thousands of acres are being lost this way every day. As more and more people become aware of the fragile beauty of this largest of all jungles, there appears a new hope that the unrivaled pageant of rare animals, brilliant birds, and strange creatures that make their homes among these exotic plants will indeed continue. The gateway city to any excursion into the Amazon is Manaus. Manaus was born as a result of the Great Brazilian Rubber Boom, a boom that began with the discovery of the rubber tree here in the heart of the jungle. With its great plantations of trees yielding a sap that could be turned into rubber, the Amazon became the world's largest producer of natural rubber by the end of the 19th century. The wealth of the rubber boom created a thriving city in the heart of the wilderness that could only be reached by a 1,000-mile ride up the Amazon River. With the completion of its majestic neoclassic opera house in 1896, Manaus became a unique cultural oasis. But today, another boom is taking place here. Manaus is not only the jumping-off point for visitors into the interior, but it is also a busy free trade zone where manufactured goods can enter the country exempt of import duty. Shoppers come here from all over to take advantage of bargains in everything from perfume to electronics. Manaus is also the busy port for a region where the main transportation system is the Amazon River and its tributaries. These classic Amazon riverboats function not only as people movers, but transport virtually everything that comes into and out of the jungle. The river is not just the basis for transportation, but for food as well. There are over 1,500 varieties of fish in these seemingly endless waters, and the local diet consists largely of fish caught by the local fishermen. One of the many unusual sights along the river near Manaus is the famed wedding of the waters. Here the dark waters of the Rio Negro meet but do not merge with the heavy muddy waters of the Solimos until 5 miles downriver, where they finally blend to form the coffee-colored Amazon. This is also the spot where the pink freshwater dolphins can often be seen frolicking along the swirling line dividing the rivers. At this point, it is hard to imagine that this huge body of water began as a trickle thousands of miles away on the slopes of the Andes, and that before it reaches its destination, it will become like an inland sea. At the mouth of the Amazon, on Guajara Bay, is Belém, an important port linking Brazil with North America. Founded in 1616, its name means Bethlehem. Belém is the site of the old Vero-Peju market. It means see the weight, named after the large scales used to weigh the fish that are landed nearby. The market is a huge commercial center, where each day at dawn, a colorful fleet of riverboats bring fresh fish, produce, and local crafts to sell. In these stalls, you may find anything from magic potions to snake skins, dried toads, and alligator teeth. South of Belém, on the Atlantic coast, lies Fortaleza, a sparkling seacoast city surrounded by beautiful sandy beaches. Fortaleza is known as the home of unusual local crafts. The colored sands found along the beaches south of town form the basis of this unusual art form. Here Aida Crisostomo creates fantastic miniature landscapes by placing sand collected by her husband into glass bottles with almost infallible artistry and precision. This is also a town of lace making, a nearly forgotten art brought to Brazil from Europe. These delicate webs fly from the skilled fingers of the women of Fortaleza, while their husbands fish far out at sea for days at a time in these tiny but most reliable sailing craft known as jangadas. In the late afternoons, as the sunlight deepens to amber, the sculpted ridges of the dunes become ski slopes. This local pastime was invented by the kids here and is not quite as easy as it looks. Fishing and lace making, though ancient and venerable skills, are no longer economically viable for many of Brazil's northern people. A relentless period of drought and economic misfortune during the 1980s has driven a constant stream of immigrants from the northeast to the south, to the busy city of Sao Paulo. This is Brazil's Big Apple. Sao Paulo is the commercial, industrial, and economic center, not just of Brazil, but of all South America. With a population of over 10 million, it's actually the third largest city in the world. Sao Paulo is where people come to work, to make it, and they bring to the city an energy, a pace, and a rhythm that even a New Yorker would find hard to surpass. People here are driven by a passion to consume, and there are enough goods on display to keep anyone motivated. Almost everything that can be produced by man is produced in Sao Paulo. There are over 80,000 factories in Sao Paulo, employing over 2 million people. And when the pace slows, there is always another cup of cafezinho to pick it up again. Coffee comes thick and rich in a demi-tasse cup filled with sugar to the halfway mark. In Brazil, you can't get a large coffee or a small beer. The Avenida Paulista, the main thoroughfare, was once lined with the mansions of rich coffee plantation owners. Today, the only mansions still standing among the gleaming skyscrapers are the ones that have found a way to conform to the modern world. Sao Paulo is home to South America's largest banks, as well as its finest five-star hotels. Sao Paulo is a city with an international flavor. The world's largest Japanese population outside of Tokyo resides here, and Japantown is their cultural hub, as well as a place for visitors to enjoy the finer aspects of Japanese culture. The vast concrete and steel sprawl of the city is broken with countless oases of green. The Zoological Gardens is one of the 7 major zoos in the world, with thousands of animals from all the regions of Brazil. And if the wild animals of Brazil are not enough, the Simba Safari Park provides automobile safaris through acres of jungle habitat, where the people are in cages, while the animals are free to roam among them. 39 miles from Sao Paulo is Santos, Brazil's busiest port. This is a spot of magnificent beaches and breathtaking views from a vantage point on the crest of a mountain served by a precipitously steep cable car system. From here, you can reflect on a quieter past, characterized by graceful churches and cobblestone streets, or watch the bustling activity as millions of tons of goods move in and out of South America's largest seaport. There is another story to Sao Paulo besides the thriving port, the glistening buildings, and the ever-expanding middle class. That story is best illustrated by the favelas and the mansions that coexist throughout Brazil. There is still a great deal of poverty in Brazil. Although the economy is growing, there is great unemployment, and social programs are difficult because Brazil still must use its vitally important capital to service a tremendous international debt. Today, by expanding more moderately and by broadening its economic base and moving rapidly toward economic self-sufficiency, this forward-looking country hopes to bring the prosperity that it is capable of producing to all of its people, no matter how remote they may be. It was this intent to increase Brazil's prosperity by opening the interior to development that led to the creation of one of the most dramatic cities in the world, Brasilia. The new Brazilian capital is a vision of the future made real in concrete, steel, and glass. Rising from the plains of the Central Highlands, Brasilia seems like a mirage against the tropical sky that here seems bluer than elsewhere. It is not a mirage, however. It is quite substantial, a new city, completely planned. The public buildings were designed by Brazil's most eminent architect, Oscar Niemeyer, and the landscaping by Bula Marx, and the overall effect is like a trip into the future. Brasilia remembers its past, but more importantly, it looks forward to Brazil's promising future. Juscelino Kubitschek, the president who proposed and guided the building of Brasilia, knew that Brazil was a land of great potential waiting to be realized. A land with the natural and human resources to eventually become one of the world's great nations. This monument commemorates his speech to the nation on October 2nd, 1956. As I cast my eyes once again over the future of my country, I foresee a new sun dawning with an unbreakable faith and a limitless trust in its great destiny.